So recently, a conversation on social media apps like TikTok has been sparked with people disagreeing about what Naruto is about. Now, this conversation may or may not have been sparked by me when I claimed that Sakura is a better representation of the core tenets of Naruto than Naruto himself. And while a lot of people did agree with this take, a lot of people also disagreed with it, which, you know, such is the internet. But what I found a lot more interesting than the discourse about whether or not Sakura is a better representation of Naruto's tenets than Naruto was people having the conversation about what they believed Naruto as a show was about. Because in reality, it's not about just one thing, and perception is key. And since art is subjective to the person consuming it, it can mean a lot of different things to different people. And thus, to somewhat substantiate my point of saying that Naruto is a bad representation of what Naruto is actually about, I want to tell you what Naruto means to me, what I believe the core tenets and true message of Naruto is as a whole. And honestly, as somebody whose entire job is Naruto, I'd like to think I kind of have the finger on the pulse of what this show might actually be driving at. But outside of that, I'd also like to accomplish a couple other things today. Well, I'd like to elaborate what I believe Naruto is about. I'd also like to highlight characters that I believe are the best representation of Naruto's core tenets within Naruto, while highlighting the differences between them in Naruto by the time the show wrapped up. And by the end of this video, I hope that you realize that Naruto, while an incredible character, is far away from the best one in Naruto. At least when we're talking about character development within the rule set of Naruto. But before we head into this deep psychological dive into Naruto, guys, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. And while you're at it, guys, if you want to do a deep psychological dive into my brain, well then go ahead and follow my other page, The Weeb Commander, where I talk all anime that's not Naruto. And if you want to do an even deeper dive into my brain, well then go ahead and follow my brand new podcast, Otaku's Anonymous. This is an anime podcast that I'm doing with Danny Mata, where we talk all anime, Naruto included. So like I said earlier, art is subjective. It can mean anything to anybody at any time. Art can even have a new meaning every single day. Depending on where you are in your life, art can have a different meaning to you entirely. Naruto, which was just a show about ninjas fighting each other when I was 8 years old, now means something entirely different to me. So genuinely, how can somebody sit here and tell you what a piece of art is truly about? Naruto would have a significantly different meaning if you were born an orphan or born a rich kid. It might have a different meaning to you if you were a loner in school or the popular kid. And while obviously the perception of art is largely individual, there are obvious themes, things that anybody can pick up on throughout the duration of Naruto. And generally, that's what I'm going to be talking about today. Undeniable themes that draw veins through the entirety of Naruto's run, and how by the end of the show, Naruto is arguably one of the worst representations of those themes, at least in some regards. You see, while many will say that Naruto is not a unique story, there's millions of stories about a child who starts with nothing becoming the true ruler of the world. The zero to hero story is basically just the hero's journey. You start with nothing, you accumulate skills and friends until you're finally strong enough to fight the biggest bad at the end of the story. It's Star Wars, it's Lord of Rings, it's Naruto. But just because Naruto doesn't necessarily break the mold of the hero's journey does not mean it doesn't have its own unique themes. However, ironically, these themes are presented to us not through the main character, but through side characters. Lee. You see, if I could surmise Naruto's themes into two words, it would be fate and forgiveness. Obviously, the "and" doesn't count. But obviously, with a two-word summation, this is a gross under-explanation. Because while the forgiveness theme is very obvious, and Naruto is a fantastic representation of forgiving those who have wronged you, the fate theme is the much more potent of the two themes, and also where Naruto genuinely lacks in terms of representation. See, because the fate theme itself is actually split into two separate themes: the fate of your power and the fate of your social standing. You see, I guess during the duration of this conversation, separating Naruto from Naruto Shippuden is incredibly important. Because within the confines of just OG Naruto, Naruto is a fantastic, and I mean fantastic example of everything that Naruto stands for. However, in Shippuden, he loses his way. But once again, I'm speaking abstractly, so let's dive into the meat of the matter. Easier of these two divergent themes is the fate in regards to power. This is arguably the biggest theme in OG Naruto. The battle of hard work versus genius. Those born into prestigious families like the Hyuga or the Uchiha are revered with respect and honor because they represent the highest threshold of power one day. And because of this, geniuses like Neji and Sasuke are almost superhuman to the rest of their class. Their sin is untouchable. Nobody born without their level of genius could ever rise to their level of genius. Even though they're born with this level of genius, they also continuously train in order to make sure that they're still stronger than everybody else. And both of these respective geniuses also have their respective foils. See, Neji has Rock Lee, somebody born from a nobody clan with no ability to use ninjutsu or genjutsu. And even when it came down to taijutsu, Neji, who was a genius of the gentle fist at the age of 12, outdid Rock Lee. And it didn't seem to matter how hard Rock Lee trained, Neji could beat him with little to no effort. The gap in their skills seemed insurmountable, and thus Neji looked upon Rock Lee with disgust, seeing him as an inferior being, never truly understanding what it would feel like or what it would be like to be that inferior being. But Neji had providence, he had power, he had status as a Hyuga, even though he was a part of the side branch. Even amongst the Hyuga, he was looked at with respect as a young genius. And because of that, he had always known that his fate was to be powerful because he was born with genius. Sasuke's respective foil was obviously Naruto. Sasuke had been following in the footsteps of his brother Itachi for almost his entire life. And Itachi was a genius amongst geniuses, graduating from the Ninja Academy at 6 with the second highest ever score on the written test, doing the tuning exams by himself at 10 years old, and getting the fastest ever time through the Forest of Death, and becoming the youngest ever Anbu captain at the age of 11. You could argue that Sasuke was also the foil for Itachi's genius. Growing up and seeing true genius realized in front of him drove Sasuke to realize his own genius, which was largely possible because he was the son of the head of the Uchihas. Fugaku and Mikoto, being incredibly strong ninjas in their own regard, allowed their children to be geniuses, 2 for 2. And the realization of Sasuke's own genius after the Uchiha are massacred by his older brother Itachi makes Sasuke start to believe that everybody inferior to him is significantly below him, as Sasuke's only goal is to kill his brother and avenge his clan, meaning he didn't have time to worry about those who are weaker than him. In fact, he only wanted to fight those who were stronger or equal to him so he himself could get strong enough to kill Itachi. But because of this, much in the same way as Neji, Sasuke looks down on Naruto, who sees Sasuke as a potential rival. And throughout the duration of OG Naruto, these are the two most important thematic timelines when talking about the fate of power. While this theme is addressed dozens of times throughout OG Naruto, like in the Land of Waves arc when Naruto and Sasuke fight on equal terms against Zabuza and Haku, and a couple of times during the Forest of Death, but the most important time that this theme is addressed is in the final stages of the Chunin exam, most specifically in 2 battles, the first of which being Rock Lee versus Gaara. In this fight, Rock Lee is battling against somebody who is quite literally the physical manifestation of being born with powers, as Gaara was born with the protection of his mother and his absolute defense. And on top of that, he was also born as the Jinchuriki of Shukaku. This combination of blessings upon his birth made Gaara almost invincible as a baby, as any incoming attack would be deflected by the sand that was controlled by his mother's soul. And the power of Shukaku gave him almost limitless chakra to control his sand with, which also, by the way, the ability to control sand was also conferred to him by being the Jinchuriki of Shukaku. And thus, Gaara appears to be able to fight incredibly talented foes effortlessly. Simply by standing still, Gaara can be completely defended by his sand. And then with a simple hand movement, Gaara can move mountains of sands onto an enemy and crush them in a sand barrier. And all of this was given to Gaara. And Gaara was able to achieve this level of power without training a day in his life. It was simply handed to him upon his birth. Now, I understand that Gaara had to overcome a lot emotionally to get where he is currently in Boruto, but that ties significantly more into the other aspect of fate we're going to talk about later. And thus, in this battle between Rock Lee and Gaara, you are seeing literal hard work go against natural born talent. And the way that these two fight is supposed to be representative of that, as Rock Lee, in order to even land a hit on Gaara, has to open up the 8 gates and move at supersonic speeds, while Gaara simply stands there and has his sand do all of his defense. This is a physical representation of the hard work that Rock Lee has put in and the natural born talent that Gaara has gotten and hasn't had to work for. And in this fight, Gaara and all the other Konoha shinobi realize that Rock Lee is a formidable foe just based off of hard work, and that his power is able to go toe-to-toe with a genius who would be able to defeat both Sasuke and Neji. And in this moment, Rock Lee is arguably the golden standard of the underlying theme of Naruto, that your fate when it comes to your power is what you make of it. Of course, there is those who are born with genius, but through sheer hard work and commitment to your values, you can catch up to that genius. Obviously, Rock Lee does lose this fight. It's used more as a yardstick to show that there's still more work for Rock Lee to accomplish to catch up to that level of genius. It's a representation of the unfairness of this system, that Rock Lee, somebody who's been training 18 hours a day and risking his life using a technique like the 8 gates, lost to somebody simply born with the ability to break his arms and legs with sand. Second great example of this underlying theme of the fate of power is the fight between Neji and Naruto. Now, this fight arguably should have gone down like Rock Lee versus Gaara, as Neji is an unprecedented genius, a master of the gentle fist, hailed as one of the most impressive specimen to come out of the Hyuga in generations, being able to pull off feats such as 128 palms at the age of 12. He, almost more than Sasuke, was the pure representation of genius at the Genin level. However, in his battle against Naruto, him and Naruto have a heated conversation about fate, mostly hinged on the fact that Naruto had seen Neji in Hinata's battle, where Neji had ridiculed her for working hard at her gentle fist when she was never truly talented at it, and that no matter how hard she trained or tried, she would never catch up to his natural genius. Naruto, resonating with Hinata's desire to catch the geniuses through hard work, saw himself in that ray and decided that he would teach Neji a lesson about how hard work can triumph over genius. But if we're being entirely real, in this fight, Naruto really has no business winning. Naruto drops Neji in one punch after Neji conveniently runs out of chakra and can't use his Byakugan and can't see Naruto in the ground. But that's fine, because this moment is a fantastic representation of the theme we've been talking about this entire time: hard work triumphing against genius. And in this moment, Naruto is as good a representation of that theme as Rock Lee was in his fight against Gaara. Okay, now that we've established what one side of that fate coin looks like, let's talk about the other. On the other side of this fate coin is the fate when it comes to social standing. This has less to do with power and more to do with you as a human. It's kind of hard to explain, so let me give you examples. There is a lot of people in Naruto who have had to overcome unusual circumstances to become widely beloved and accepted by the people around them. People who have had internal struggles that they've had to overcome in order to become the most well-adjusted humans they could be. And while we could talk about Kabuto or Kakashi or Tsunade, there's really three people that are the best example of this. And those three people would be Naruto, Sasuke, and Gaara. People who, from a young age, got a bad role that would make them jaded against the world. Children who had a backstory that would make genuinely anybody evil. A cast of a die that they're not in control of that should have sent them down the wrong path. See, for Naruto, it was the loss of both of his parents that left him an orphan, and the Jinchuriki of the nine-tailed fox that had destroyed the village. Because of this, Naruto had nobody to shield him from the hatred of the village. He was an orphan, growing up alone with no Jonin or Hokage backing him up. And because Danzo had leaked the fact that he was the Jinchuriki of the nine-tailed beast, everybody in the village came together to unify in their hatred towards him. He was an outlet for the pain and the sorrow for everybody who lost a loved one or a family member in the Kurama attack. And thus Naruto's fate socially was to be detested. He was supposed to be nothing, just a punching bag for the village to spit on until the day he died. And thematically, this is the one vein that Naruto never strays from. Regardless of how strong he's gotten or who he's fought, Naruto has always battled to get the trust and love of the village. That trust and love manifesting itself by making him the Hokage. And this, while it definitely ties into the other thing we're going to be talking about, the theme of forgiveness, is Naruto overcoming his fate. And in that regard, he is a very good example of what Naruto is about, in both OG Naruto and Shippuden. The second person is Gaara. See, Gaara was born to be the ultimate weapon, used by Rasa to increase the power of the Hidden Sand Village. And because of this, Rasa implanted Shukaku in Gaara before he was even born, which ended up killing Gaara's mother. Ironically though, Gaara kind of rebelled against this idea, though not intentionally. You see, Gaara was given one of the most unruly tailed beasts of all time. The tailed beast in Shukaku that wouldn't even let its host sleep. Because the second the host goes to sleep, Shukaku takes over the host's body and proceeds to let itself loose and go on a rampage, destroying everything around it. But also in a way, Gaara wasn't battling against being the ultimate weapon, because his lack of control over Shukaku also stopped Gaara from ever becoming the regular child he wanted to be. That's all Gaara ever wanted. He wanted to be a regular kid with friends who could play and enjoy others' company. But because he was raised as the ultimate weapon and had no control over Shukaku, that could never happen for him. And thus as time progressed and Gaara lost more and more of the people around him, like his mother's brother who was assigned to assassinating him, but Gaara ended up killing, Gaara realized that he would always be alone. And thus, if he was always going to be alone, that he should, in fact, be the ultimate weapon for the Hidden Sand, going so far as to be a key player in the Konoha Crush arc. And even though Gaara was supposed to become this ultimate weapon who hated everybody and everything around him, Naruto reaching out a hand to him and saying, "I understand your pain," brought Gaara out of the darkness. Gaara realized that he could make friends and therefore live that regular life he always wanted to. And with his father, Rasa, recently being killed by Orochimaru, there was a power vacuum in the Hidden Sand that Gaara was elected to fill. And thus Gaara didn't become the ultimate weapon, but the ultimate shield, as he stepped up to be the Kazekage and led the Hidden Sand out of a dark era led by his father, going so far as to basically give his life in order to protect the Hidden Sand against Dato, acting as the perfect shield not the perfect weapon. The last person who's a representation of rejecting the fate laid out for you is Sasuke, because Sasuke was handed the fate of being an avenger when Itachi massacred his entire clan, and thus Sasuke dedicated his life to avenging his clan and killing Itachi. However, Sasuke is the only entry on this list who actually becomes what they were laid out to be, as Sasuke achieves becoming the avenger. He kills his older brother Itachi, only to realize that that fate was the wrong fate for him. Much in the same way that Gaara becoming the ultimate weapon or Naruto becoming the village's punching bag were the wrong fate for them. But Sasuke's supposed to be the physical representation of what happens when you isolate yourself and don't divert yourself from the incorrect fate. As upon killing Itachi, it's told to him by Obito that Itachi was actually his biggest protector. However, at this point, Sasuke has already become an avenger. However, after killing Itachi, he realizes that Itachi isn't the person he should have been killing in this avenger scheme. Who his true anger should have been pointed at was Konoha. And thus Sasuke continues down this incorrect path until once again at the end of the Valley of the End fight, Naruto reaches across to him and breaks him out of that wrong fate. Naruto realizes that Sasuke is much more than an avenger and could be an important person and a loved person within Konoha. And much in the same way that Naruto stopped Gaara from becoming the ultimate weapon, he stopped Sasuke from becoming an avenger. So now that we understand how both sides of the fate work, we should talk about forgiveness. Like I've already stated, Naruto is the best representation of forgiveness in Naruto. And because Naruto changing his social fate is largely hinged on forgiveness, they're kind of the same thing for him, as Naruto is perpetually wronged, and therefore he has to forgive those who have wronged him. He forgives Neji for what he did to Hinata after Neji begins to understand the lesson that Naruto's trying to teach him, that hard work is more important than genius. He forgives Gaara after they both come to the mutual understanding that they've both been through a lot, but what matters more than going through a lot is how you react to being put through it. He forgives Nagato for his attack against Konoha after Nagato brings back the entire village. And really, this fight against Nagato is the most important thematic point when talking about forgiveness, as Nagato both idealistically and physically is the representation of never giving forgiveness. See, Nagato's ideology is on the exact opposite of forgiveness. Nagato's ideology is that if everybody is in pain, if nobody is separated from loss, then nobody will ever want to fight again, as only those who know what loss and pain feels like know that they want to avoid it. And therefore, once the entire world is hurt, the entire world will find peace. But this is an eye for an eye ideology. I am hurt, and therefore you need to be hurt. And just in case somebody wants to take my other eye, I should take their eye so they know how terrible it is to have your eye pulled out. The reason that this is a problem is because fundamentally, it's not how humans work. Well, the majority of people after having their eye plucked out will be like,
damn, don't want that to happen again. Let's try to avoid anybody who knows how to pluck out eyeballs for the rest of our lives.
But some people will stew on the fact that that eye was taken from them, maybe even without them doing anything, and they'll plot their revenge. Ironically, this ideology that everybody on Earth needs to know what pain feels like propagates the hatred cycle more than anything else, because not only does it indoctrinate those who don't know pain to pain, it also possibly introduced tons of new people to this cycle of hatred. And thus, in order to truly break the cycle of hatred that Nagato so badly wanted to destroy, requires a couple of people standing up. A couple of people saying,
it's okay. I understood that you took my eye. I understood that you were angry, and I forgive you.
And when people do this, it breaks the cycle of hatred between two people. But for this to truly stop this cycle of hatred, the entire world needs to practice forgiveness. And that's more or less what Naruto's tried to instill in every bad guy he's ever come across. But Naruto is far from the only representation of this theme throughout his show. Well, Tobirama and Hashirama were incredible examples of those who were able to forgive in order to bring warring sides together. In fact, everybody in the Senju or the Uchiha were able to forgive each other for lost brothers and sisters throughout a war in order to come together to create Konoha. So even while Naruto was arguably the best representation of forgiveness in his own universe, there's been dozens of other people who have also embodied that spirit. So the question becomes, if Naruto is the perfect embodiment of forgiveness in redefining your fate as it comes to social standing, how is he not a good representation of Naruto's core tenets? Well, I'd like to once again reiterate that unfortunately for Naruto, those two things are kind of the same thing. Well, obviously for the likes of Gaara and Sasuke, forgiveness did play a big role. For Gaara, the recreation of his fate was more about allowing himself to live in being his best possible person, while for Sasuke, the rewriting of his fate was allowing people to be in his life. Naruto and Naruto alone basically could only rewrite his fate by forgiving those who hated him, and by trying his hardest to prove them wrong by continuously protecting the leaf. And while, like I said, Naruto is one of the truest and best examples of redefining your fate from a social standpoint and forgiving those around you for wronging you, where he truly strays from the thematic undertones of Naruto is the fate of power side of the coin. The conversation of genius versus hard work. You see, for the first 220 episodes, it appeared as though Naruto was on the hard work side of the coin. He failed the Ninja Academy test 3 times, struggled to even pull off the clone jutsu. However, through sheer dedication and hard work, he was able to master things like multi-shadow clone jutsu and the Rasengan. And through mastering these techniques and also a little bit of help from Kurama in the form of his early version 1 Jin cloak, Naruto was able to go up against geniuses like Sasuke in his curse mark form. And here's the thing, I don't want you to think that at any point I'm saying that Naruto didn't work hard for what he had. He absolutely did. Naruto had to overcome having the worst half of Kurama inside of him, the half that wanted him dead. Even in Shippuden, he had to use his own power and his ability to forgive to allow him and Kurama to live peacefully together, giving him access to the first version of his Jin cloak. The same could be said for his Rasen Shuriken. He had to learn how to add wind nature to a Rasengan, something even Minato couldn't figure out. He then had to learn how to add shape transformation to this wind style Rasengan and made the Rasen Shuriken. But just because Naruto worked hard for a couple of the things that he figured out does not mean he worked hard for all of it, or even the majority of his power. You see, like I already stated, in the first 220 episodes, Naruto was the scamp, working hard to catch up to the geniuses. However, in Shippuden, it was revealed to us that Naruto hailed from 2 of the strongest ninjas in Konoha's history. That Kurama was stronger than all of the other tailed beasts combined. That Naruto, outside of having one of the literal Hokages as a father, was also the reincarnation of Ashura, an actual god. And more than anything, when Naruto was losing his battle against Madara, the actual god of shinobi in the Sage of Six Paths, Hagoromo, descended from the Pure Lands and granted him all of his power. Hagoromo descended at the most opportune time during the 4th Great Shinobi Worlds War and granted Naruto superhuman power. Superhuman power that would put both him and Sasuke on par with Madara, and then subsequently Kaguya. They didn't work for that power. It was handed to them. Sure, they battled as hard as they could prior to Hagoromo deciding to give them that power, but they didn't get on Madara or Kaguya's level without a boost that they did nothing for. But honestly, the Hagoromo bit can be forgiven. It's a shonen anime. Occasionally, they're gonna get a power-up that makes no sense. But what truly spits in the face of Naruto's tenets is the Ashura and Indra reincarnation cycle. Sure, it's fun to say that Hashirama and Madara were reincarnations of Indra and Ashura, and therefore Naruto and Sasuke were, and that there's been an infinite cycle of hatred between the progeny of Ashura and Indra for thousands of years. That's a fun storyline, if detached from the rest of Naruto. But when considered side by side contextually with the rest of Naruto, it muddies the plot. Naruto spent his entire childhood yelling at those born with status and power that they were nothing more than the hard work that they put in at the end of the day. And because of this, it seems as though Naruto was able to overcome these people born into power and status through sheer hard work. But him being the reincarnation of a literal god destroys that point. Naruto is not defeating Neji or Nagato or Sasuke just on the back of hard work. He was born to be one of the strongest human beings on Earth. And just because his abilities didn't appear immediately does not deny that fate. Who is he to lecture Neji, saying that his genius doesn't make him who he is, when Neji was just a really talented member of the Hyuga side branch family? And Naruto is a reincarnation of the literal god of Shinobi's son. More powerful son, I should add. Yes, Naruto worked for a lot. But if you really think about it, not much more than anybody else. Yes, Naruto had to fight an internal battle to wrestle with Kurama and find peace between them to truly realize his power as a Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. But Kakashi also had to wrestle with having his best friend's eyeball in his forehead and deal with the guilt of using his Mangekyo Sharingan, even though it reminds him of the time he had to blow out Rin's back with a Chidori. Sasuke had to wrestle with the fact that in order to use his Mangekyo Sharingan ability, the one that would allow him to take on Konoha, he would have to steal the eyes of his brother to unlock EMS, after realizing that his brother had committed his entire life to protecting Sasuke. Gaara has to grapple with the fact that in order to increase the power of his sand control, he has to use the magnetic release passed down to him by his father, who destroyed his life. Tsunade quite literally struggles with PTSD based off hemophilia that she acquired by watching 2 of the closest people in her life die at her own hands. Not like at her own hands, like she killed Dan and her little brother like at her own hands like she was trying to heal them. Everybody in Naruto has struggles, but revealing that Naruto is the reincarnation of a literal god means he has no right to lecture anybody on fate. In fact, the fact that Naruto was this reincarnation of a god and actually a super genius when it came to ninjutsu, taijutsu, and possibly genjutsu probably made it significantly easier for Naruto to learn things as opposed to other people. I mean, his superhuman chakra ability allowed him to make thousands of clones that could all practice a jutsu simultaneously. And each of these clones, while training, could try to master a jutsu, and when they disappeared, that experience would go to Naruto. Now, Naruto was able to pull this off because of his superhuman chakra levels gifted to him by being the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, and more importantly, being the reincarnation of Ashura. Because while Indra received Hagoromo's dojutsu, Ashura received his chakra, and therefore every single reincarnation of Ashura has insane levels of chakra, like Hashirama. So the real question becomes, did Naruto even really work that hard? Without the circumstances that made him as powerful as he was, because he is literally a genius, and if you deny that, you're insane, Naruto would have had to work significantly harder. So while yes, Naruto is a fantastic example of forgiveness, and that is an important theme in Naruto, he is a terrible example of somebody overcoming their fate to become more powerful than they should be. Because Naruto's fate from the second he was born was to be the strongest human being on Earth. I mean, he's quite literally the child of prophecy. He's Ninja Jesus. So when people ask me who I believe are better examples than Naruto of Naruto's core themes, I say the answers are relatively simple. Kakashi had to overcome the same, if not more, than Naruto. Losing both of his parents at an incredibly young age, falling into the dark pipeline of the Anbu and the Root, climbing out through the power of friendship, and then eventually becoming a bastion of light for Konoha by eventually becoming the Hokage. And sure, obviously, the power of the Sharingan was given to him, but he didn't have the power to deactivate the Sharingan, and he had to learn how to master it with nobody to teach him. He also had to grapple with the fact that that eye was given to him by his best friend, and that that eye awoke in a brand new power by killing one of his closest friends in Rin. Might Guy and Rock Lee are definitely better examples than Naruto, as Might Guy had to forgive those who would call his father the Eternal Genin, and Rock Lee would have to forgive the likes of Gaara and Neji and everybody who doubted his ability to become one of the strongest ninjas of all time. They are the golden standard, the true main characters when it comes to hard work, overcoming genius. While Might Guy can use ninjutsu a little bit more than anything, he used hard work and dedication to get on the level of Madara. And Rock Lee is no different, except for the fact that he can't use ninjutsu at all. For people like Might Guy and Rock Lee, the two sides of the fate coin, one being social standing and the other being power, are the same side, as their power is largely tied into their standing in the ninja community. They're not only proving that they can be as powerful as they want, but also proving that they don't need to use ninjutsu or genjutsu to become powerful, and that ties into the social standpoint. And yes, of course, there's also Sakura. Sakura hails from two parents, neither of which are shinobi. She is not the reincarnation of anything, she is not a Jinchuriki, she is simply a Koinaichi. But Sakura got put next to Sasuke and Naruto, the reincarnations of Ashura and Indra, literal gods in her Team 7 squad. And because of that, the disparity in their strength was always massive. You see, because while earlier when we talked about Naruto and Sasuke being foils for each other, the real foil the whole time is Sakura. Sakura has to play catch up with literal gods. And by the beginning of the arc, she's on their level. By increasing her chakra control, learning the 100 healings, learning the mitonic regeneration tied into the 100 healings, and boosting her chakra-assisted strength to a godly level, Sakura, prior to Naruto and Sasuke getting a boost from Hagoromo for doing nothing, is arguably in the same league as Naruto and Sasuke. Her speed, strength, stamina, and durability are all roughly equal to Naruto and Sasuke in the beginning of the war. The real difference between her and Naruto and Sasuke is the attack power and defense power and the hacks. But Naruto and Sasuke's attack power and defense power come from their Sharingan and their Kurama, things that Sakura will never have. So simply through the means of being a regular human, training hard, and mastering what she can master, Sakura overcame the stigma of being the useless member of Team 7. See, because her fate was to live in the shadow of Naruto and Sasuke. But she overcame that fate through hard work, until eventually she could stand side by side with them on the battlefield, battling against Kaguya as the only person in that fight without Sage of Six Paths chakra. And just like Naruto, Sakura is also a sterling example of forgiveness, as she was able to forgive Sasuke after all he did to her. So yes, is there some themes that Naruto represents perfectly within his own show? Absolutely. But is he truly the best representation of what Naruto is truly about? Not even close. But what do I know? It's not like I reread Naruto once a month making all these videos. But what do you guys think? Who do you believe is the best representation of Naruto's themes within the Naruto universe? Tell me in the comments below. And while you guys are down there, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell.